Warfred, Bartosz. I believe we have a saying for men like you. Liar, liar, pants on fire. That is to say, no matter how poised his poker face has been, the truth always catches up with you. Always. He was seen speaking to Alonzo Reedfoot, Edmund's butler. Sounds like he was trying to impress Sir Beckett with his art. But poor Warfred seems to be coming up short. Oh, Alonzo and Edmund are not impressed with the trash you produce now, are they? No, they're men of distinction and taste. This one's so sickening, I'd laugh at the fact that I'm not only dealing with cold-blooded killers, but cold-blooded killers that pretend they have standards, that would judge the elegance of a blood splatter on the wall sooner than they would mourn the life lost in making it. Parasites, all of them. I was willing to let the butler walk if he proved himself to be unwitting or unwilling collateral, but that ship has sailed. Alonzo Reedfoot is a cruel man who is helping Edmund fulfill his darkest desires, so he's fair game. Which leaves me with hope that despite the fact Edmund is slipping through my fingers, Alonzo remains in Regalport, and he just tied himself to the murder case. But first, Warfred. What has me so convinced Warfred is involved in Tarek's murder, aside from his creepy obsession with the playwright? Well, there were signs of a struggle on Tarek's body. Warfred has a mysterious scratch. And Tarek was terrified in his final moments, under a fear spell so powerful it immortalized the look on his dying face. Horrific. But if my suspicion about this being, I don't know, an audition piece for the Snapdragons is correct, then yes, that falls perfectly in line with their body of work, as does Warfred's confirmed piece, The Survivors. Fear, agony, hopelessness, and death on display. The less I try to imagine this, the better. Focus. The point is, now that I know how Warfred spoke with Alonzo, little doubt remains in my mind that Warfred was involved in this mess. But we're not done. You remember Kelson, yes? The veteran found dead with missing eyes. As it turns out, both he and Tarek were victims of methylmercury poisoning. Not only that, but Kelson was likely the anonymous painter behind one of the pieces at the art gallery. Finally, a connection that doesn't rely on my gut. So the next step is quite clear. We suspect Warfred all we want, but if we want nails in his coffin, we need evidence. And what better place to start than the poet's mouth? As you may recall, we arranged an opportunity to speak with Tarek's corpse. But being the eager lot we are, we hadn't found someone to facilitate the spell. One thing led to another, and we decided to ask Elsa to help us, a decision I'm still uncomfortable with, as it brings her much closer to Edmund than I'd like, but of course Elsa agreed, so all I can do now is trust her and await Meryldine's response. In the meantime, Brina's contracts were ready for Luca and my signature. It's a standard affair non-disclosure agreement with a standard spell attached to ensure we behave. No clause that indicates we'll be hung at the slightest slip-up or discovery of a magic eyeball, and in exchange, all the resources and protection a Madani can provide. I think Luke and I can work with this. Though, one thing I may have overlooked is the fact that Luca might be so eager to help, he may mention things I'd rather he not. Of course, that is partly on me. I didn't fully explain to him why it was ill-advised to bring up the translated note, that it could bring the fact that Willow made an unauthorized copy of a piece of evidence to light, but let's just say between Stanislav's death and Islay's near death, it slipped my mind. Fortunately, we avoided disaster, and I'm sure I can recover. Back to business. We're moments away from getting to read the testimonies of all the people who attended the gallery. Should be interesting. Honestly, with all this new information connecting Tarek's murder to Warfred, I'm very relieved that we have time before Willow has to return to the Lion's Den. Time to read these testimonies, time to plan. Signing Brina's contract isn't just about solving the case or stopping Edmund or garnering Brina's favor. It's also about having every piece, every tool I possibly can at my disposal to ensure Willow's safety. Going forward, Willow and I will be playing opposite sides of the field, but our goals will be running parallel. Like running on parallel roofs after a single fleeing bastard. Same end in sight. We're closing in, and cornered animals fight. But one pathetic lion scorned by his pride can't stop a fire. The tinder is in place, now to provide the spark.
Oh.
It's always such a delight. Hi, Cognord.
Yeah. Cogno had to weigh in. Such a delight.
It's always such a delight to hear an N recap.
Yeah, they're so murderous all the time, but you're so protective. Ah!
You'd like
Oh my god.
That's what you take away from this. Okay.
Always. Constantly.
Yep. I have
So-
my priorities straight.
Straight? You sure?
So we're just saying anything now.
We cut not to the Inquisitive's office, but to a beachside sword fight between one Willow Jenkins and Damon Ardantego. The dueling arena has been drawn in the sand, and Damon has thrown down the gauntlet. He won't hit Willow, but Willow's not going to get a hit on him. Damon twirls his sheathed greatsword hand over hand, lightly pacing inside the bounds of the dueling ring that you've drawn into the sand. He's wearing that infuriating, half-bored looking smirk of his. So, what are the rules again? If you get a hit on me, I have to answer a question? There are easier ways of getting me to shut up, Jenkins.
I imagine Willow is pacing and idly swishing their sword around. He does the overhand swing. Willow's is like a back and forth of just drawing, like twirling circles at their side. Mm-hmm. One up near the head, one down near their side. Growing a bit more faster and irate when they look at his face. Mm-hmm. They'll swish their sword down and respond, "That hardly seems fair."
Well, then what would you propose?
That you fight as well?
I have no interest in causing you harm.
Who says I have interest in causing you harm? You aren't going to goad me into an unfair fight again. Willow's starting to pace and twirl their sword again. You have to be able to also get answers out of me.
Okay. If you fall over, you have to answer my questions.
Fall over?
Damon tilts his head and Damon tilts his head and then does a come at me hand gesture.
Willow looks like they are about to lunge, and then at the last moment, I imagine they disrupt their own lunge, do a spin, and hold themselves steady for a moment. They're like, I am not going to launch myself at his room again, having not assessed how I feel about this. So they are taking a moment to calm themselves. Mm-hmm. He's not going to come at me, bro. Willow into making silly errors. So, okay. Can I make some sort of check on him first?
What would you like to try and see? What are you looking for?
Weak spots, now that I'm directly in front of him.
Okay. Make a perception check.
Yeah.
I think this will be contested by Damon's charisma. Oh. Well.
Wow. Good stuff.
You're getting it out of the way early.
I think you tried to look for weak spots and all you want to do is this smug motherfucker.
Oh.
He's doing a little sort of bouncing on the balls of his feet movement.
God, he's so annoying. Does that nat one prevent me from using Fish Dog as advantage?
No.
Okay. I think Willow at this stage is going to catch themselves basically once again about like itchy sword hand, like getting ready to stab at him just blindly, and they're like, no, and then produce fish dog from their pocket. I imagine them kind of clicking and then fish dog emerging, but I don't know if that's how that works. But yeah, and then pointing fish dog in Damon's direction to have it undergo a perception check. And this is probably the first time he's seen fish dog, by the way.
Okay. 11. I don't think you gain any new particular insights on weak spots other than like what would normally be a weak spot on a human being.
Right. Yeah. We also did analyze him. Willow did analyze his fight style way back, but he was also pulling his punches then. He doesn't even have his sword out this time. And it kind of seems different. It's also the sand.
Yeah.
Guess the sand?
You gonna pocket sand this man?
Huh. He's like, haha, pondering expression. No, I don't feel like it would reach his eyes. Can I do any other checks that would help me get some kind of information about how to get a hit in on him?
I don't think right now.
Okay. Then I'll just have to take... Well, I assume take the first swing. I assume he's leaving it open
Yes.
for Willow to start.
Though if you stole too much, he is going to do something.
Quickly, how does he respond to Fish Dog zipping around him briefly?
He gives it a curious look, but doesn't necessarily seem shocked, let's say. Let's say mild surprise / interest.
Right, okay. Yeah. Alright, might as well just take a quick... We'll make good on a stab.
Okay. You
Can
are
Fish Dog
rolling
give
with
me advantage with that? Oh, why?
In which case, because Damon has taken the dodge action.
But can Fish Dog give me advantage to make it normal?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So you can have a
Good.
flat roll.
Alright. Oh.
Oh. Hold on while I do some quick math. Okay. So, you come at Damon with Fish Dog helping you. Describe how Fish Dog helps you. Other than being a distraction.
Is it a... I was thinking mainly it might be distraction at this point, but otherwise I imagine Fish Dog almost lines itself up as a point of aiming. Like I often imagine it circling targets or otherwise being a target, like when Willow is shooting. So I think the same would apply for this.
Okay.
Just lining itself up so Willow gets like something to focus on rather than the bigness of everything. Little target to zoom in on. And I imagine that if it's going to zoom in a target, it's probably going to be directly over his chest.
Okay. Cool. So Fish Dog is sort of swaying in front of Damon's chest as he like dodges back and forth, keeping your aim on him. You lunge forward. Fish Dog flips out of the way. Damon raises his sword to parry. You predict the parry and manage to get a hit. And Damon genuinely looks surprised at that.
I imagine, so I predicted the parry. Is it still around his collar then?
Yeah.
I think Willow gives him a smug little grin. He says, "Ooh, I think that's one for me."
Yes, it is.
So, first question, Willow's going to, like, pull their sword back. Actually, no. They're going to lightly tap his necklace with the tip of their sword. Does he have any reaction to that?
He's not best pleased about it.
Burning curiosity of mine. What was Edmund bullying you about at the auction?
Bullying.
Don't get caught up in semantics, you know what I mean.
You know, I don't really remember. Damon shrugs. Sorry. Seems to be telling the truth.
What do you mean? Really pulls their sword back with like an unimpressed, you're a buzzkill kind of face. You don't remember. Aren't you the archive guy?
I didn't write that conversation down.
That's boring.
My turn. Make a athletics check.
Do I have this? No. Flat?
Just straight. Yeah.
Okay. Oh shit.
Damon suddenly pushes you by both shoulders and you just go flying into the sand.
Both shoulders? Deeply unnecessary. Yep. Oh my god. Willow falls back so ungracefully. Like flat, I imagine.
Yep. You fully just like keel over pratfall onto your back into the sand.
The Looney Tunes leg scramble as I just plop on the sand. Ugh. Willow's gonna try to get up. Ugh. Willow shakes their head like a... Well, yeah, like a dog. Like, get sand out their hair. As they're getting up, they give him a gesture of like, ask then.
What's your favorite color?
Ugh. You are so bad at this game.
You mad at me?
What kind of face does he have when he says that?
Still
smarmy
smirky.
As your voice sounded? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Willow's gonna rub their brow. I don't know. Gold, blue, it changes, I guess.
Sure. Damon. Is Willow standing up yet, or?
If he lets them, then yeah, they'll get up.
Yeah.
And dust themselves off.
Cool. Next round.
We'll try another.
Yeah, that's a big miss. Damon's like, come on.
Can Fish Dog's going to shoot him? Fish Dog do a little force strike?
No, because Fish Dog is helping you roll flat.
Oh, was that? Am I still at disadvantage? He's still dodging. Always. Yep. Dodge, motherfucker. Okay. Fine. Well then, yeah, Willow, I just imagine kind of falls past him. Not falls quite, but like, you know, when you put your weight into a
lunges
motion.
past him.
Yeah. Yeah. Has to catch their footing.
Yep. Cool. Your turn again.
Why?
Because Damon isn't attacking you. He's taking the dodge action.
I think Willow knows that they missed. That was a prime opportunity for him to parry or do something. And they're going to turn like accusingly at him now. I do not want to participate in the one-sided duel.
Then don't make it one-sided.
Okay, fuck you. Willow's going to hit him back.
Oh, good. Another hit.
Yeah, this one's a horizontal slash. If it catches his shirt, even better. Like that kind of thing. But no, up to you.
I think what you do is like he tries to step back as you lunge for him, and you catch him at the thighs, which he can't get out of the way fast enough.
Yes. Okay, gotcha.
Oh, 2 for you.
You're not letting me win, are you?
Hardly.
The test of your poor memory. What's the pebble about?
It's a secret tool that'll help us later.
That is not an answer.
Isn't it? Oh, what is unclear about that, then?
Oh, well, it's just lining themselves up, getting ready to get tripped over at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
What is unclear is the grander scheme you have in mind, I suppose. Unless, of course, you're just pocketing it just in case.
Pretty sure I told you about my grand scheme, right?
You didn't mention House Orion.
Oh, I thought you were smart, though. You telling me you haven't figured it out yet?
Willow deadpan looks at him. I have theories. Asshole.
Tell me your theories and I'll confirm or deny them.
I don't care that much. Willow's just preparing now to get hit. Well, they'll prepare. Can I do anything to prepare, or?
Sure, you can take the dodge action.
Yeah, I'll prepare that then.
Cool. Alright. In which case... Damon will take a strike at disadvantage. Still hits you, though.
How is he knocking me over this time?
I think he takes his sheathed sword and does a big arc in the sand that catches your ankle.
Oh my god. I'm gonna fall on their ass again. On their back, I imagine.
Make a dexterity saving throw.
Oh. Okay.
See if you can catch yourself. Okay. You stumble, but you do not fall flat.
Okay. That's somewhat okay.
You stagger back onto a knee, but not flat.
Okay, good. That's better. Willow's going to note that he used his sword this time, even if it is sheathed, and say, phase 2. So soon. How lucky.
He had his sword out this entire time, by the way.
But he hit me with it.
Yeah.
Rather than just pushing me over like a playground fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite food?
Oh, God. Bread.
Just bread?
It's versatile, easy to access, and a staple of many generations. What's not to like about it? Willow's gonna hit him.
Okay. Miss. This
Try
time
to.
this time he also will follow that up with a shove again. Roll contested athletics. Oh, just miss.
They fall over.
Damon slaps you on the sternum and you fall prone again. Not fully backwards, but you do land on your ass in the sand.
Ugh. Let me guess. Favorite animal?
You got it.
Don't have one.
That's not an answer.
Sheep, I suppose.
Cute.
I think Willow's going to use. Use their lightning lure, perhaps.
Okay.
Should I skip directly to magic missile? You know what? I think magic missile, actually, from the floor.
Okay.
Rather than
Okay.
picking up their sword again with their other hand, they're
Okay.
going to just, directly aim at Damon and fire.
Okay. As you do, there is a sheen of magic light as a shield spell appears and completely dissipates the magic missiles. Damon gives you a look of like, really?
Ooh, Willow doesn't even mind. I feel like their glasses catch the sheen, and they are intrigued. Can I do an Arcana check?
Sure.
This is all from the ground as well. Normal? Or can Fishdog give me advantage?
Normal.
Okay.
So, you know that the shield spell is effective against magic missile by default. It eliminates that auto hit feature of magic missile. It is likely that it was cast from that amulet. Of his.
Automatic.
I mean, shield is a reaction.
Yeah, no, I know. But this in the actual amulet, from the amulet.
Yep.
That's good to know.
Thought this was a play fight.
Something. Willow doesn't seem too annoyed by his statement. They clearly tip their head at his amulet and then stand up. It's like they didn't really hear what he said.
Cool. Well, Damon just circles you.
That amulet has a lot of power.
It's pretty special.
I think Willow's musing idly. They have a vibe about them. Don't know if Damon cares to insight it, but just let it be known. There is a vibe.
Okay.
Because they are thinking as they pace.
Okay. You gonna hit me again, or?
Oh, that counted as my turn, didn't it?
Yeah, but Damon shrugs. Didn't really work, did it now?
Fair's fair. I tried. I failed. Your turn. I will take. Can I take the dodge action in advance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Damon rolled a 20 at disadvantage. I think he smacks you on the butt with the flat of his sword.
Like a baseball swing? How did you do that? I'm pacing.
Yeah. He's
Like a
very
baseball- okay.
fast.
Okay, good to know. Do I?
Slaps
what
your
do I have
tail.
to roll? Oh my god! Ow! Do I have to see if I fall? Like, what do I? Athletics again? 20. I think that's
That was just to hit you.
Okay. You succeeded.
But he doesn't knock you over.
Oh. I feel like Willow
This
makes
time.
like a wince face of ow, my freaking tail, which just like squanched under their pants. Like
Yeah.
an accordion. They like hiss and just kind of like jump to get the. I feel like it's like stubbing their toe almost, like that kind of pain.
Yeah.
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 Rude. Quick question. Shield only nullifies magic missile, yeah?
Yeah. Otherwise, it just raises your armor class, potentially
Yeah.
making an attack miss you.
I think Willow's a bit curious at the moment. They are going to try lightning lure.
Okay. Can you post that in the chat, please?
Yeah.
Okay, so Damon needs to make a strength saving throw.
I'm sure he'll struggle.
Yeah, 23.
But it does hit. Oh, okay, sorry. It can't know because. Does it hit him? at all?
What you try and do is like you have so you create the lure, which and try and pull him closer in so that it actually will do damage to him.
Mm.
He just shrugs it off. It's like the rope breaks.
Willow nods.
You cannot pull him.
Yeah. Willow doesn't seem annoyed by that. They just kind of nod and keep pacing. They keep it moving. I also imagine that they like actually rubbed their bum and then like from that rub, you know the static you get from rubbing your pants?
Yeah.
That's almost
Yeah.
how they built into the lightning lure. Yeah. And when they miss, they shrug. And we'll have their... I think they sheathed their sword earlier, didn't they? Maybe. Yeah. Well, it's back in the hand now.
Okay.
Actually,
I think
let's say it's
he's-
sheathed now, as an aside.
Okay. Okay. The two of you are circling each other.
Mhm.
About 15 feet apart. So you just gonna keep trying to hit me with magic, or what is this?
Your turn.
Okay then. Damon sheaths his sword, marches up to
Oh.
you, and just straight up grabs you.
How?
Nat 20 strength. I think he shirt fronts you. Oh, no, you know what? He grabs you by the back of the collar and, like, just lifts you up.
Oh. Wait, Willow says, as they are lifted off the floor.
Damon gives you a little cocked eyebrow of, like, say your piece.
What does he mean by that? Final words? What is he trying to say?
Damon starts marching towards the beach, like
Oh
towards
my
the
God.
shoreline.
No. No. This isn't part of what we're doing.
Isn't it?
No? Can I try and struggle?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You can try and get out of the grapple with an acrobatics check. No
Can Fish
dice.
Dog give me advantage? Not really, eh? Can Fish Dog help? Fish Dog help!
You can still, you can still
Okay,
attack him.
If
You
it
can
like
still punch
smacks at
him.
his wrist.
Bonks him in the head. No,
Yeah.
I can still try and attack him. Can
Yeah.
I use lightning lure again? At close range this time?
He is technically within. He is technically within range of like the 1d8 lightning damage you have on him now. So I guess roll damage for lightning lure.
I don't want to. I do want him to drop me, so I guess if I roll high enough, he could. He won't drop me. What the fuck? Ugh. God. So rude.
Your shirt is digging into your armpits as you are hoisted.
With his legs just kind of waggling. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think habit would have them lightning lure him.
Okay.
So... Oh wait, I pressed the wrong thing. Hold up. Sorry, one quick question I forgot. Is lightning launcher, does that use a spell slot?
Lightning launcher is a ranged attack.
Okay, so I can't use it point blank then. Oh, whoops.
You
I
can
hit it.
try, but you.
Sorry.
Yeah, that does
I was
not
meant
hit.
to click lightning lure. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I misread my intros. Whatever.
Okay.
Just little zips of like bursts of lightning trying to like get his hand to drop them. Like Willow probably grabs his arm with an attempt to like shock him to drop them.
And it's like, ow. Thought we weren't hurting each other for real.
Put me down then.
No. Unless you want to answer a question right now like this.
Well, if my next option is the ocean, then yeah.
Alright then. Who taught you how to sword fight?
Willow goes limp in such a way of... You know what? Willow just goes, drops like full weight, and then just throw me in then.
Damon's going to make an insight check. 22.
Willow doesn't want to talk about it.
See what I mean about always stepping on each other's toes? Damon just lets you fall to your feet. Walks away.
What?
Like, towards the duel ring. You're outside of the ring now.
So it was a hollow threat then.
It wasn't that hollow, but then you went limp.
It wasn't a sad limp. It was just like a heavy limp. Like you're gonna chuck me in the ocean. I'm going to make it harder for you. I'm being a
Work
dead weight.
for it.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was like a lighthearted limp, if that changes his reaction at all. I don't know. Willow's
No,
not hurt.
He did roll a 22 insight.
Okay. I think Willow lands in the sand and is a bit like, oh, not this shit again. Where's he going? Like, I need to insight check him as well. Is he going back to the circle to continue the duel, or is he walking away?
Yeah, he's walking back into the circle.
Oh my lord.
Oh, good. All right. Ha!
What?
I have to post this in chat. He rolled a nat 20 as well! Damon walks back into the circle and then looks over his shoulder like, already done?
Willow seems frustrated that they can't glean anything off him, even when they are so sure that they're good at reading.
Yeah.
But whatever. Did he say done so soon? Is that what he said? Yeah, Willow.
That was the essence of it.
Willow will shake their head and head back. And I think even... No, I guess it's been dropped, so they won't talk about it. They'll bring their sword back out, though. Do a little another contemplative spin, but I feel like after that question, they almost seem a bit like, distant about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like something playing on their mind. They're, contemplative, but they will strike again.
Okay.
Without saying anything. I imagine a different kind of lunge this time.
Mm-hmm. Miss. Make a contested athletics check. Oh. I think as you lunge, Damon sweeps his hand around and shoves you further into the lunge, and you go flying face first into the sand.
Oh my god. I think my glasses might be scraped off.
I think you get sand in your mouth, is what happens.
Yeah.
On the nat one.
Yeah. I don't mind the glasses at least being askew. I think Willow's going to fix up their whole face and then be...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cough, cough. Blech.
Yeah. There's a bit of a begrudging, fine, I'll eat sand and die energy as they as they just lie on their face and contemplate themselves. And then they will just slowly get up, aware that he has another question arising.
You see Damon make a kind of, ooh, that must have been unpleasant wince.
Willow keeps their back face while they adjust their glasses, get the sand out of their eyes again. This is another instance of sand under my glasses. Ugh. And get able to grit off them.
Yep. There's some stuck to your nose.
Hmm.
Because it's
Willow's just
kind of damp.
yeah, was gonna like wipe their face on the inside of their shirt, I think, because
Yeah.
just like yucky. The inside of their shirt also has sand in it. Ugh.
Yeah.
Whatever. They turn around, looking shit, and then like expectantly at Damon, like, "Yep, next question."
Didn't think you'd go flying that far.
It's fine.
Alright then. What'd you think of me when we first met?
Willow rolls her eyes a little. Their brain is full of sand. They feel like there is sand going through their grey matter. First met. We'll head back to the dueling ring. As they think it's complicated. And has only grown more complicated, perhaps less complicated, I can't tell. You're interesting. And annoying.
Thanks. That's about what I
What?
expected.
Interesting is more of an insult than annoying?
No. Nah. Never mind.
Willow's going to
Your
insight
turn.
check him again.
Fucking nat 1.
What's you already heard about?
It's the "you're interesting" is what I thought of you, and Damon is recalling how you reacted to him simply existing around you the first time you guys met, and being like incredibly on edge because he had the songbird.
So he's like, that interesting doesn't cut it? Like,
Yeah.
okay. Willow will roll their eyes. Okay, I'll offer you more information. You had something of mine that I wanted back. And you were also clearly from home. And that was very, you know. Willow makes a big arm gesture. Lots.
Fair enough, I guess.
Is it?
It's your turn anyway.
Hmm.
See if you can finally get a hit on me, because I'm pretty sure I'm in the lead.
Just grumbling to themselves. They'll take a breath, full of sand. Try again. Yay! Maybe.
Yep, another hit.
They're back in their own style now. The sand, really washed everything away. Okay. How do you imagine Willow hit him?
You tell me.
Okay, good point. I imagine them just going for a classic Cognaughty fencing lunge, basically, at his other shoulder this time, or at his shoulder.
Okay. Yep.
Obviously, like catching the coat more so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Willow will then say, same question.
What I thought of you when we first met. I believe we had a whole argument about this at one point. Thought you hated me.
Wrinkles their nose. Argument.
Disagreement.
Is that all? That's not really what you think about me. That's what you think I think about you, which is not the same thing.
I was hoping you'd be able to help me.
It's still not the same thing.
Damon shrugs. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
The answer to my question? If all of your perceptions of me are anchored in your own needs, then I suppose that's that, but I would consider that a non-answer.
I guess I thought you were taller than I expected.
Willow's like chin extrudes. Like what I'm trying to say, their chin juts forward in that way of what? Like that is not at all what they expected him to say. So, oh, because of the namesake?
Damon shrugs.
Willow gives a little chuckle at that and then just doesn't add to it. Like, that's an odd response, but it is a response. Okay.
Damon does a half-hearted lunge at you.
Oh.
I do mean truly half-hearted. Oh no, looks like I missed. Your turn. You'll have to do better than that.
I imagine Willow went back with more or less the same energy. Like a very slow sword swish that obviously misses.
This is getting kind of boring, don't you think?
Willow tips their head at him. They're wondering why the sudden drop in energy. They can take a guess. Or it's just what he says, it's boring. But
Damon sheaths his sword again, or rather, stows it. I'll give you a fair shot for a change.
what does he mean by that?
He's not dodging anymore.
Willow's tilted their head at him in such a way of like, should I call the fight? But no, he's opened up a new opportunity, so Willow will nod. It is your turn though.
Okay then. Make a dexterity saving throw. He sweeps your ankles.
Oh. Willow falls like they're used to it at this stage.
Like I said, getting boring.
No interesting questions?
Fine. What do you think of me now?
Willow gestures back up towards the balcony. Didn't I cover that a little?
Guess so. Stupid question then.
Willow's giving him a kind of concerned furrowed brow. I'm gonna insight check him again.
Yeah. He just looks bored.
Willow will think about it and then say, my opinion of you hasn't changed very much. But they don't seem to mean that in a mean way. They seem to mean that in another way.
Fair enough. Cool.
I think Willow now... They're going to go for one last hit, but it is a pulled punch. It's like a... We'll see.
Okay. Roll. Make an insight check.
If he lets this hit him, I swear to God.
You seem to catch him off guard.
Seem to. Okay, Willow's question is thus: are you throwing the fight?
I don't know. Can you throw a fight with a toddler?
Willow's, I imagine that last, went to, again, towards his shoulders. And at that, they will tap him on the shoulder and then sheath their sword again.
Did you get it out of your system?
Willow shakes their head with a bit of a tight-lipped expression. If that is your approach, we are again on a different page.
Damon rolls a nat 20 to once again grab you by the shirt and just suplexes you into the sand gently.
What? Wait, sorry. Did you say suplexes me gently?
Yes.
What do you mean by suplexes me gently?
As in, you don't take any damage.
But I have still been suplexed.
Yes, you have still been yoinked and flipped over backwards behind his shoulders.
What in the world? Okay, Willow scrunches like an accordion. I don't know what else to do in this case. They are stunned. Like, I didn't think they expected that at all.
You good down there, Jenkins?
What the hell? Willow's like not sure which way up is.
Damon checks you over.
Will is gonna pull out their crossbow and try and hit him with it. Oh wait, he's up close? Is he too close to do that?
He was going to try and give you a hand up if you were like actually winded.
I think just confused. Willow's like, why is the ground up? What? I literally
just
don't think
like
Willow's
you're
used
just
to
like
being
staring.
suplex. I don't know what.
You're just staring at the sky, and Damon sort of pokes his head into your field of vision.
Yeah.
And is like, "You okay there?"
No.
Need a hand up?
Okay, Willow doesn't bring out their crossbow then. Probably thinking about it. Hand from their pocket, like instinctively goes to their pocket to get their crossbow, but then comes out empty. With a confused shake of their head. I think their bandana came off as well. They will accept the hand up, I guess. No, actually, I'm gonna insight check him first. I want to insight check him first. Thank you.
Okay.
Just in case he's going to flip me the other way. Oh, never mind. I'm too dazed. Yeah, whatever. Willow will get help.
Yeah, he just picks you up like you weigh nothing and gives your back a dust off.
Is that the regular way that you conclude duels?
I thought you wanted to keep going.
Willow bounces their brows if that's an invitation. Like, that's not what they said, but they're like, if that is him, but like not being bored anymore, then sure.
Make another insight check. He is largely indulging you in this, and has been the entire time. Which, like, you've experienced now a little bit up close what kind of level of strength he's on. There is no way for him to make this a fair fight other than to let you get hits at him. But if you're willing to be tossed around in the sand, then he'll toss you around in the sand. If it makes you feel better.
Fuck's sake.
Because once again, to him, this is a grown-ass man fighting a baby. What's he going to do? Beat the baby into the ground?
Oh my God. Well, apparently... okay. I think upon seeing that, Willow is going to recalibrate. Well, you know, he kind of recalibrated for them, both
Yeah.
suplexing them. And then, sort of, they don't, better idea. What do you want to do?
Damon pauses to think for a moment. Well, there's what I want to do, and then there's what I can do. He looks out at the sea, where the sun is setting. Get dinner, I guess?
Willow will nod. Yeah. Oh, can I join you?
Sure.
Cool. Willow's gonna just put their bandana back on. Or dust all the sand out their hair.
Yeah.
Probably say, get the taste of sand out of my mouth, I suppose.
Damon gives you another clap on the back to wipe some of the sand off your collar and stuff. Just a light one. Then the two of you walk off towards Regalport.
Willow recognates. They don't really know how they feel about it. And I think as long as it's not a leading statement, Willow might just add maybe one thing as they're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Something to think about. Something after some thought, after some quiet walking together. I imagine it's sort of ends up being quiet.
Yeah.
They will probably add.
I taught myself initially the sword. For fun.
Kind of shows.
Now I bought this one specifically so I could fight you. So
You
thank
should
you
ask for a refund.
Thank you for indulging me.
Anytime.
In response to that, Willow kind of shakes their head, but they're not going to push it. They, yeah. They want to eat. They'll go eat.
Yeah. And now we cut back to the office of Brina de Medani, who has just produced a big folder full of written testimonies. Or rather, transcribed testimonies.
Yes.
To show to Luca and Audrey.
Yeah.
I haven't had enough time to get to everyone, but here's the ones I've collected so far. We'll show you.
Audrey nods and leans forward as the stack is presented.
Oh.
Should we read them back and forth, Sarah? Like I
Yeah,
can read one and
let's.
you can read another?
Oh my god, there's so many.
Yeah. Who wants
Yeah.
to start?
Oh, yes.
Let's play rollies to decide who starts.
What are we rolling?
Let's roll a d6.
D20 each.
Okay.
Or D6, that also works.
Looks like it's gonna be you unless you roll 1. So go.
Oh.
It's you!
Yeah! Initial testimonies collected on the 18th of Dravago at the Grand Auction Hall. Segments of the testimonies have been highlighted as noteworthy or summarized by Brina Demadani. Meraldine Frostrud. Captain Frostrud was too distressed to give testimony at the time. She was placed under medical observation for the night, escorted by Captain Fayrus.
No.
Rager Irwinarn. Statement aligns with the events of the night. I'm not surprised someone would be after me, but it's a bloody insult that they got this close. The death of the playwright under my watch looks particularly ugly. I wouldn't be surprised if the whole point was to drive a wedge between Thorani and the Sea Dragons, though it could also be to draw the ire of Thorani itself. Killing the latest non-elf darling of the house with the highly controversial opera, it smacks of political motivation.
He's very clued in. He's smart.
I mean, yeah.
I guess you have to be the prince.
Hi, Prince, please.
Yes. Oh, I apologize. Hi, Prince.
Hi, Prince.
Hi.
Hi, Prince. Hi.
Latila Fayrus. Statements aligns with the end of the evening, end of the night. What? Statement aligns with the events of the night. I've never seen Meraldine so distraught. Her lover was gruesomely murdered. Anybody would react like she did, though I don't think that the sculptor in question actually did it. He doesn't seem the type.
Henderson Law. Statement aligns with the events of the night. I still think this was the dire sharks. They could have hired necromancers to do the attack, but they still left their mark on it. Killing the playwright was just an extra flourish of bastardry. Poor Frostroot. Someone has it out for the girl.
Cheswick Law is the son, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm the handsome one. Can't say anything new about the attack or the murder that you haven't already heard. Weird that Frostroot immediately ruled out the dire sharks and then accused the Thorani sculptor of murking her boyfriend.
Lydia D. Thorani. One thing I must say, Arl did not commit the crime. He's emotionally and physically incapable of it. Not to mention has too high regard of his art and too low a regard of Mr. Elham to even consider such a thing. Most likely, it was an enemy of Mr. Elham who committed the crime and wanted to make a lasting impression. Perhaps someone who has been snubbed by Thorani, or someone with anti-Siren sentiment. It's horrid.
Elar de Thorani. No comment at this time. House Thorani will avail itself to the authorities during the investigation, of course.
Alcazar Canterton. This is an outrage, a tragic loss of life, and an utter humiliation. Long complaint omitted. There is no doubt that there was a conspiracy at hand. We will get to the bottom of this. I will have the Grand Auction Hall undated as soon as possible. Do a full inventory, examine every possible angle for the breach in security. Further complaint and resolutions omitted.
That's audited as well.
Audited, yes.
Yeah.
Jaylee Hazelwood. I'm afraid I won't have anything new to add. Statement corroborates with the events of the night up until the auction. They were bidding on my piece when the cloud erupted. There was so much screaming and panic. If it weren't for the people sitting next to me, Coster and their co-workers, I'm sure I would have suffered much worse. They protected me and tried to help me escape. Tried to help people escape. I think they were one slinger and they were using combat magic, but they only really used it to help. Vouching for the good character of Mr. Adontego and his entourage.
Aww.
I don't know anything else. I'm sorry. What happened is horrible. Why would anyone do such a thing?
Alonzo Reedfoot. Statement aligns with the events of the night. Only notable detail is his attention to his employer, Sir Edmund Beckett of Sharn, and ensuring they escape the chaos swiftly.
Edmund Beckett. Statement aligns with the events of the evening, but never mind the attack. Thanks to the actions of the sea dragons, most were spared. But the grisly scene in the gallery, Mr. Elham had only just debuted a magnum opus. It was the very beginning of his post-war career, and for him to be killed in such a brutal and public fashion, it is a tragedy, an absolute tragedy. One can only guess at the motivations of the twisted mind that would desecrate the memory of one so newly risen to prominence.
Wilfred Bartosz. Statement aligns with the events of the night. I was seated near several prominent figures, but the only one I believe I caught the name of was Dr. Hartley Close. As soon as the attack happened, I'm afraid I fled like a coward. I have no skill in combat, after all. I hid just outside the auctioning room doors until the chaos subsided, and then, forgive me, I cannot speak further. I considered Mr. Elham a friend.
Sorry, pardon me. May I interject for just one moment? Can we scream?
Yeah, you can scream.
You can scream if you want. Yeah, it's not great.
you.
It's pretty bad. Anyway. Carry on.
Sorry. Dr. Hartley Close. Statement aligns with the events of the evening. I was sitting next to Mr. Wilfred Bartosz during the auction, but I lost sight of him when the attack happened. There was so much chaos, I'm lucky I wasn't crushed in the fray. As soon as the attack subsided, I offered my aid as a healer. Sovereigns, I wish I had known I had known what is hiding in the gallery sooner. Perhaps I could have saved. Oh, I'm sorry, this isn't helpful, is it?
Oh.
Arl Thorani. I did not lay a hand on Mr. Elham. I swear it. I would never, could never commit such a crime. Yes, it is true he insulted my work this evening, but why would I further insult myself by doing that to my own work? It is unthinkable. After much protesting, statement corroborates with the events until the beginning of the auction. When the doors to the auction opened, I decided to take some fresh air and exited the building. By the time I returned, everything had already transpired. I had only just found out about the attack when I was abruptly accused. Further questioning proved inconclusive. Nobody can confirm the alibi. Mr. Arl seems uncertain of what he was doing out of doors during the events of the attack. A significant chunk of time.
Shit! Oh no!
Oh,
Oh, you dumb
Arl.
motherfucker! Wait, not to say that everybody that gets hit with a little spell is a dumb motherfucker, but like if they were, I feel like it would be easier.
If they were before the events. But we don't know anything about that, so let's just keep going, shall we?
Oh dear.
So, do we want to go back and forth with who is Brina and who is the one in question, Sarah?
Zeke, do you want to be Brina?
That's true.
Yeah.
Zeke could be Brina.
Yeah.
That's
And,
the thing.
you know,
I could voice act this entire thing myself.
Can you?
If you
I would
like.
love that.
Okay, sure.
Thanks, Chan. You're the best.
All right.
Gently pats your head.
Dies and screams and pukes.
Wilfred Bartosz, artists, The Survivors, 19th of Dravago. Testing? Okay, the scriber is recording now. Thank you for coming of your own accord, Mr. Wilfred Bartosz. Yes, I failed to give much of a statement on the night of the crime and was plagued by it. I wanted to bring forward whatever information I could help with the investigation. That's very noble of you, Mr. Bartosz. I'm happy to take whatever help I can get on this case. I'm pleased to be able to offer it. Do you have any questions for me? How about you tell me what you think I should know, and I'll ask questions if I need any clarification, huh? Very well. I was thinking there were several altercations that Tarek, that is to say, Mr. Elham, I was a friend of his, you understand. Either name works fine. Please continue. Yes. There were several altercations that Tarek had over the course of the evening. You see, he was a very sensitive man, but also quite outspoken. He did not shy away from disagreement or controversy, and was prone to making people uncomfortable. He had quite a few public arguments over the course of the evening. It's quite possible to imagine that his personality was such that he had enemies at the exhibition that night. I see. Could you describe the arguments? Perhaps who he was arguing with? Yes, I did see him have quite a disagreement with his romantic partner, Captain Frostroot. She's with the Sea Dragons. I knew their relationship was on the rocks, but it looked almost as if they were about to split for good that evening. Or at least, he seemed to want to. I'm not so sure about the good captain. There was also the public altercation between Tarek and that Karnathi or Farlnan fellow. I believe his name was Drakovas or Dragovich or something like that. That happened shortly before the argument between Frostroot and Tarek. The man was making some incendiary noise about an anonymously submitted painting, and Tarek was brave enough to stand up to him. Though, of course, the instigator had no problem turning his bitter words towards my friend. This was shortly before the doors to the bidding room opened, I believe. Tarek was overcome by emotion and left the gallery before the argument could become more violent, as the instigating man was clearly trying to antagonize. Captain Frostroot stepped up and apparently challenged him to a duel at midnight. Can you believe it? I understand that that dueling for pride is kind of the national sport in the principalities. I suppose so. I am not a native here. Regardless, after that declaration, the bidding room was opened and I joined the crowd. But before that, I did see Tarek and Frostroot arguing. I see. Thank you for clarifying the timeline. Were there any other arguments you witnessed? You did say several, but you've only named 2 so far. Oh, yes, of course. Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it an argument, but Tarek did publicly humiliate Mr. Errol Ditharani in front of his own statue. He gave a very scathing critique of it. Errol Ditharani, the sculptor. The same one who Captain Frostroot accused? And the same statue that was the scene of Mr. Elham's death? The very same. Things don't look good for Mr. Errol Ditharani there. Quite. Though, I do find it strange that Captain Frostroot was so quick to accuse him, don't you? And there hasn't been any sign of that Drago what's-it fellow either. I did see him liaising with an elven woman dressed in the style of those northern pirates from Farlnan. You know, the ones who are said to practice necromancy that even Karnath finds objectionable. I don't need to spell it out for you, do I, Detective? The undead attack on the guests, only to reveal a brutal murder? It's clear that somebody was planning terrible things for the exhibition that night. It certainly looks that way. Though I do admit that the killing of a man who was so proudly branded himself a Siren survivor has certain political implications. Anti-Siren sentiment is on the rise across Corvair, I hear. But then again, people have killed for less high-minded reasons. It's just as likely that Tarek was killed because of a personal grudge. Or maybe it was something else altogether. Listen to me ramble. I apologize. I should not pretend to be an investigator when sitting across from the real deal. Oh, I don't mind it. It can be very useful for someone like me to hear what other people are thinking. Was there anything else you wanted to tell me about the night, Mr. Bartosz? Not that I can think of currently. All right, then. I'll just ask a few follow-up questions for my notes, if that's okay with you? Of course. The interview ends.
Notes. Fortune Bartosz, dwarf, male, 78, originally from Solengap? Moorholds. Solengap. Claimed to be a friend of Tarek Elham. They had previously met at the Gilded Brush Art Studio in Regalport, where Elham had commissioned a portrait approximately 3 months prior. Mr. Bartosz was seen within the bidding hall before the attack and was there when the body was discovered by the public. His alibi is solid, does not seem to like Captain Frostroot, due to her apparently rocky relationship with Elham.
Next one can be read by you guys, since it's not a back and forth.
You want to?
I'll take it.
Yeah, you can read the first section. I can read the second section.
Please read the title and the note.
Why?
Read it. Just read it.
Aral de Thorani, artist Galifar Taming the Dragon, Thorani heir, 19th of Dravago. No transcription of interview available. Denied use of scribe by Mr. Arl's lawyer.
I will not say a
The scriber is, by the way, a common magic item that is essentially a pen that writes down
Right.
as you are speaking.
Right.
Oh.
Gotcha.
They put all the, the, like, what do they call them? Like courtroom typists? I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah.
Out of business.
Scribes, I believe.
Yeah, they're called scribes, right? Anyway, initially accused by Myrildine Frostroot for the murder, Ellum was impaled on the statue that Aral de Thorani made for the exhibition. Aral calls the crime scene a desecration of his work.
Of course he does.
It was no secret that Aral and Mr. Ellum were on poor terms. Aral insists that it was simply incompatible personalities, and that he had never spoken much with Mr. Ellum outside of Thorani and art events that they were both coincidentally attending. Aral claims to have been out of doors during the events of the auction alone. He was not seen within the bidding hall and only reappeared after the evacuation and quelling of the attack. Nobody else can corroborate his alibi. Aral's lawyer was not pleased about this.
Oh, honey bun.
Aral seems
man.
to be uncertain what he was doing at the time of Mr. Ellum's murder. Aral's lawyer really not pleased about this. Claims stress-induced forgetfulness. Same. Aral de Thorani is an enthusiast for auctions and is very familiar with the layout of the Grand Auction Hall. Oh, he previously was acquainted with staff members, some of whom died in the attack. Aral was unaware of this fact until brought up and quickly became emotional at the news. Interview ended. Further questions. What was Aral doing outside? Who all did he know at the Grand Auction Hall? Why use his statue at the crime scene?
As the crime scene.
As the crime scene.
As the crime scene. My mistake.
Notes
Oh,
from
good.
other testimonies. 2 guests unaccounted for in testimonies: Stanislav Dragovich and Vaelia Blank, both associated with Farland / the Blood Sales Principality, which is known for undead. Dragovich apparently intimidated or antagonized several guests and artists, ex-Karnathi military, but clearly still thinks Karnath should have won the war. Owner of the auction hall discovered theft and magical tampering with security coinciding with the attack. Too clean to be opportunistic, except for the dead security. Planned heist? Was the attack a diversion for the murder? Was the murder related to the attack? What about the items stolen? Expert on artifacts from Zendrake was at the auction. Mr. Damon Ardontago, employer of Changeling who snooped around the Kelson case. Lead? Oh, that's me!
That's
Luca looks up. Luca looks up at Audrey.
Audrey looks back at Luca, looks back to the paper.
You can do this.
Still need to interview. Myrildine Frostroot, victim's partner, Sea Dragon Captain. Surviving security workers on the night of the auction. Tarek Elham, ? If I can find a medium on short notice, necromancers aren't common around here.
Here's one we prepared earlier.
Yeah, I think at that, Luca might raise a hand, and then point at the paper and say, if you don't mind, I've already contacted someone about speaking with Tarek.
Really? Who? When? What?
Oh, sorry, that's a bit out of the blue. I am a member of the Blood of Vol, and as such, I do have connections with several necromancers, one of whom is actually my teacher, and she has offered to undertake the questioning free of charge.
Audrey nods.
Oh, well, that's incredibly generous of her.
Yes, I believe Luca has also already had the opportunity to speak with Myrildine about this, haven't you?
Yes, a friend of mine has met her once before, so he took me to speak with her briefly, and she has agreed under certain conditions, which ideally we'll be discussing with her tomorrow or this afternoon.
Wow. Well, you guys sure move fast.
Audrey smiles.
Glad I decided to bring you onto the case. That certainly makes my job easier.
Serendipitous.
Could you describe what the exact arrangement was? We can just montage this of
yeah.
like how do you explain Seeker Elsa and the meeting with Meraldine and how you got that meeting with Meraldine in the first place.
I will say I literally went to the hospital and waited to see her until we happened to pass each other. And then I went up to her and explained my situation, that I am involved with the investigation. And I had a brief, I briefly knew some of the people that were in the attack. I don't think it's a lie to say I know people who were hurt by the attack, because in Luca's mind, that isn't a lie, technically.
No, it's not. It's quite accurate, in fact. You were also there to provide first aid after the attack. It was thanks to you and a few other people who were skilled in that more didn't end up in worse condition.
Yeah. Audrey might also add that Luca didn't mention Madani specifically in our investigation, so Meraldine is not necessarily privy to the fact that we are involved with Madani, and it's unclear if that would make her more or less willing to speak with us.
Okay. And I will just explain that I mentioned I would be willing to do it free of charge, because this is obviously a high profile thing that we want to see rectified as soon as possible.
Right. Well, and your mentor, this Seeker Elsa, agreed to it. Okay. Well, that's good. I haven't been able to get a hold of Captain Frostroot myself, so maybe keeping my name out of it for now is a better thing. Tell you what, I'll lend you my scriber for the
excellent.
case, so you can record what is said exactly. I find that wording is often very relevant.
Indeed.
To the way people talk about things. So, I don't think it's too much of a stretch of the truth for you to ask to record that and keep a copy for your own records for the investigation.
Sounds fair to
I
me.
agree.
Good. Well, that clears up one avenue.
Speaking of the way people word things, we agree Warfred is a little suspicious, right?
If I were going to commit a crime, I would like to come in and try and divert attention to different people.
He certainly seems eager to bring up possible suspects. There is another thing.
Audrey raises her hand a bit, something involved with her.
When I was first investigating the Kelson case, I didn't have much to go on, obviously. So my starting point with the gallery was to look for pieces that involved prominent red, considering cinnabar paint was my starting point, and Warfred's piece did fit the bill.
Well, that's an interesting conclusion to draw, because what I got from that cinnabar paint is that Kelson was the artist in question.
Yes.
Not that it was an interfering subject. I will say, it is curious the way Mr. Bartosz talks about the subject at hand. But unfortunately, he does have a very solid alibi. I don't really see how, without further evidence, he could have been the one responsible. I'm not discounting that theory out of hand, it's just that, well...
Does he, though?
He was out of the auction hall at the
Chloe
time.
says he couldn't find Warfred.
That was as soon as the attack started, and that attack did not last very long.
You don't think he had enough time?
Not enough to pull the whole thing together, at least.
Hmm.
At least not with what current evidence we have.
If I may, it is unusual that pieces of tendon were found under Tarek's nails. When you scratch someone, usually it's only the layers of skin that get removed. The implications of having tendons under his nail might be so that it gives our suspects more freedom, if that makes sense.
What do you mean by that exactly?
Luca gives a sympathetic smile because he knows this might make her uncomfortable to say. From my perspective, it seems like Tarek was the one who removed his own eyes.
I see.
Per-
Well, that's
perhaps
certainly a theory.
he might have been...
The
You first?
thing is that tendon is not his. It doesn't match.
It
We can't
doesn't.
identify what kind of creature it came from.
Oh.
Are
So-
we suspecting there was some sort of summoning that might have occurred? Or something else?
Yeah. You know, it's not out of the question.
There's magic involved in this. We've already established that. Perhaps this is some sort of closed room murder. Perhaps
Well,
Wilfred or whoever was involved didn't even have to be in the room. So, since we're on the topic of magic, I will offer one more thought that is a bit of a stretch, but hey, we're all talking.
Yeah, this is about collecting information for the moment.
Yes, well, the butler. I did notice the butler. You remember the butler. What was his name? Audrey flips through the testimonies. Alonzo. Well, I believe I mentioned before that he was covered in transmutation magic, like a lot of transmutation magic, to change his appearance. I don't know, could someone possibly have disguised themselves to give Warfred or Meraldine or Arl, whoever, some sort of alibi where there actually was none?
Hmm.
That is quite
What-
possible.
Was this, what's his name? Reedfoot? Was he present during the attack?
Yeah,
Or the auction?
he was for both.
Yes.
Right.
I recall seeing him.
Hmm.
But doesn't count anything out. The fact that that possibility even exists can call some things into question, but of course it's all speculation.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a worthwhile angle to investigate, I can tell you that much.
The fact that Warfred is claiming to be a friend of Tarek's and had access to him is also something that is a highlight to me. We're talking about a long-term poisoning. We
Hmm.
need someone with
And-
access.
There seem to only be 2 people who have that.
How often does Meraldine have shore leave? Do we know? Would she have been here long enough to poison Tarek for such a long term? Audrey gestures.
I believe Captain Frostroot has been stationed at Regalport as a defender for the last, I want to say since the beginning of the year.
Audrey
Hmm.
nods.
That might be changing soon, but again,
Yes, has she been having a particularly rough time lately? Henderson, and Audrey flips through the testimonies again. Henderson mentions someone having it out for her?
I believe the implication was that it was her crew and her partner that were targeted
I see.
in the attack.
Yeah, Cheswick finds her behavior odd.
Certainly, I would like very much to have an interview with Captain Frostroot.
Well, if only you had people who had one lined up.
Verena gives you a little squint. You going to the interview too, Miss Audrey?
I haven't decided, but I trust Luca.
Insights. She has advantage on insight rolls. Make a deception check.
Oh!
But that wasn't a very good roll.
Oh,
Hey!
shit. Well,
Brina nods. Oh.
If there is anything you might want to ask Meraldine, feel
Yeah.
free to make a note and I'll see if I can covertly squeeze it in.
Well,
Sorry.
I think there's a few too many questions to squeeze it in, but
Mm.
let me know if she answers any of your questions.
How forthright she is will be very telling.
Indeed.
I'm sure.
Speaking of questions,
and Audrey is slipping through her pocketbook.
I have some general ones to maybe help me get a better idea of some things. If you don't mind.
Of course, please.
Well, first of all, where do you think someone might get enough methylmercury to cause the kind of damage that we're looking at here, both with Kelson and with Eric?
Here's the thing. Cinnabar is a naturally occurring ore, and it's used in quite a lot of ways, but methylmercury itself, that is the question.
Would it, do you believe, be administered as something consumed, or would this kind of damage be possible through the air?
Judging by the toxicology reports, it was definitely ingested.
So we're definitely looking at some continual access. Poison tea,
Yeah.
perhaps.
My understanding
Or
is that this kind of
poison fish.
poison is powdered. Or fish.
Well, there's plenty of those around here.
It would take a lot of fish, though. Unless one
thing
fish
is,
was
it-
particularly
The thing
red.
is that methylmercury is a bioaccumulative toxicant.
Mhm.
So, say there's just a little bit in the soil that grows the plants that the fish eat, and the fish eat the plants and they require more and more of the mercury that builds up in their system, and then those of fish are eaten by bigger fish that acquire more and more in their system, and it adds up. And it doesn't take that much of it to become a problem, especially if you're doing it over a longer period of time. This wasn't poisoning to kill, this was... well, maybe it was poisoning to kill, we don't really know either way. But it was a long-term issue. Thing is that... you know, it's pretty common these days for... you know... spell detect poison and disease or purify food and drink to be used to ensure that sort of thing doesn't happen.
So it wouldn't just be the general fish supplying Regal Port ending up not in Tarek's favor.
No,
If
this
it
would...
were fish, there would be more people ill as well.
yeah,
You'd
exactly.
think.
Yes. So we can come to some conclusion that this was targeted and not just a unhappy accident.
Yeah.
But it could
God?
be someone who knows where to find fish of a particular persuasion and feed them
Or-
to Tarek.
or else has access to mineral cinnabar. Like I said, it's
Yes.
used in a lot of things, including paint, and we are dealing with an art auction here.
Yes, which
As for who had access to Mr. Elham, despite being apparently quite a thorny man, he did have a pretty active social life, from what I understand.
Well, that does make it problematic, but fortunately we have Kelson, which does make me narrow it down a bit further.
What happened to his remains?
He was cremated. He's ash.
Yeah,
So unfortunately, that is not an avenue we can continue to investigate.
No.
Unfortunate.
So I suppose you don't remember if he also died with any sort of look on his face?
I'm afraid by the time that his body was discovered, it was already pretty badly deteriorated.
Right.
Hence the quick cremation.
Yes.
I'm afraid the Kelson case has kind of gone cold, but
Well,
it does bother me.
we might yet solve it. What happened to the auction items anyway?
I believe they're still in possession of the auction house.
I see.
No sales were final.
Right.
The
Uh,
Arl's piece has been preserved.
declared as evidence.
Right. God, would
Yeah?
Willow be able to cast Identify on the tendon?
Possibly. Actually, no, they wouldn't, because it's already been tried to be identified and they haven't found anything.
Okay.
They haven't figured out what it was. Like,
Sneaky.
they have access to this kind of magic, so it's a question
Yeah.
of, like, what is it?
Okay.
Other than not human. Or humanoid, even.
Yeah. When I say human, I mean like the player races.
Yeah.
Yeah. Willow's a human.
Ish.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of drugs, I don't suppose there were any traces of Dream Lily in Tarek.
No.
So that's something that differentiates him from what happened with Kelson. I've often wondered if... Well, I've suspected Kelson did not overdose himself.
It's certainly a possibility. Rena scratches her head. I'm afraid there's just a few too many unknowns, and I'm not in the habit of making huge assumptions.
Of course.
In my line of work, those assumptions can end up leading you further astray than further to the truth.
Of course. Do we... Why was the locking of the doors in question? Do we have any further information in that regard?
See, security at the night said they would have locked the doors, but there was no sign of it being picked or forced open. So...
Were they unlocked?
It is possible
when they were...
somebody could have forgotten to lock the door, and whoever committed the crime brought Mr. Elham in there.
Oh, the door with the gallery pieces.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one.
Can we charge someone for killing through spells like fear or other manipulation spells?
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
pretty
good.
sure that... I'm pretty sure there's an entire section of the Code of Galifar that deals with magically inflicted torment.
Ah, yes. Regal part is under that now.
Hey, take them as guidelines, but
Yes, so
murder is one thing that they tend to align their interests with, provided it wasn't a sanctioned duel.
Yes. Well, here's my question. If our perpetrator is skilled in spells like fear or other such spells that could cause strong emotional reactions, who's to say they didn't puppet the entire night?
Well, I think that'd be quite difficult on account of the scale of magic required. You'd need more than one spellcaster to cast such a wide net.
Well, maybe not everyone, but a few key players.
Like
Now that's quite plausible.
the man you intend to kill and the man you intend to frame. Who has
Missing a chunk of time.
memory.
I mean, he could be lying, of course, but
Yeah, I need to have a follow-up with Mr. Harold Ditharani, preferably also Miss Lydia Ditharani. She was the star actress in Mr. Allen's play, as I understand, and they were apparently on at least good terms. Even if they weren't necessarily close friends, they did work quite closely together. But obviously House Thorani doesn't want to have a murder scandal on their hands.
no, I
I'm not
imagine-
sure. We've got a lot of questions to follow up on.
Me too.
God, completely unrelatedly to any other magical mind altering that we may have experienced recently in canon. Disregarding that, are there ways to like go into people's heads and try and find out what they might have forgotten? Ignoring that N can do that. Are there legal ways to go about that?
Usually, no.
Usually no. Right.
Yeah, well, Audrey's sitting there and thinking, and I think that's going to make Audrey raise a question to Brina.
What sort of magic do you have at your fingertips? I mean, I've seen you use detect magic, but what else is in your repertoire?
Well, not that much. I mean, detect magic, detect poison and disease, see invisibility,
Oh.
detect evil and good. That's for, otherworldly entities like fiends or celestials or fae, that sort of thing. Or undead.
Well, Luca spoke with Arl during the gallery, and they actually hit it off quite well. So if you're looking to question Arl again,
Audrey nudges Luca with her elbow.
We were on good terms. Maybe a friendly face will get him to open up a little more.
yeah, you might ease off a little.
Although
The issue would be
his
being
lawyer.
able to talk to yeah.
Well, don't approach him as if you're going to question him then.
Audrey says, like putting her two hands together and making a little gesture.
I'm afraid Mr. Errol is still under house arrest, so that does make it a little more difficult.
Can he not have any visitors under any circumstances?
Well, I'm unsure.
Oh, maybe that's an avenue we can investigate.
Yeah, maybe.
You whoring me out.
When you say
I
it
did
like
not
that,
say
come on.
Brina sort of pinches her eyebrows. Well, I think our first aspect will be to get all of our facts straight and find where we're missing information.
Mhm.
Once we have all the pieces on the board, then we can draw our conclusions wherever they may fall.
Oh, questions for Tarek, if you have any.
Yes.
I mean, I guess aside from the obvious, asking how he was killed or who killed him, if he can even answer that, I'm sure there's people who commit murders who are well aware of the magical tools available to us.
And try to obfuscate.
Was he aware that he was being poisoned?
Luca writes a note.
That might be a good question to ask. If he suspected anybody would want to kill him? Any enemies he might have had? The
Yeah,
last
that
person
seems-
he talked to?
Well, yes, that would be interesting to know.
Audrey's like looking at the testimonies again.
And Luca's making notes. Those questions somewhat align with what I had intended,
That's good.
so
We
we're
don't
all
know
on the same
anything
page.
about Tarek's pre-war career, do we?
Well, I don't think he was alive pre-war, but during the war, I believe he was,
The end
a
of war.
poet of yeah,
Pre-morning?
yeah. He was a poet in Siri, as I understand.
Hmm.
Is it common for playwrights to have enemies?
It depends what you're
well,
writing about.
I hear the art world can be pretty cutthroat, but,
Mhm.
sorry, that wasn't really a good joke.
I laughed.
I didn't know if I was allowed to laugh, but I wanted to.
What happens in this room stays in this room anyway.
Exactly. We did sign an NDA.
I have a question.
Yeah?
How long have you had Peter?
Oh, since forever.
He's very sweet.
Yeah, Peter is, my familiar. He's been with me almost as long as I've been a detective. Probably a little bit longer, actually.
Have you been working in Regaport long?
About 5 years now.
That's a decent career. Were you working in Brayland before this?
Yeah. From Brayland originally. I think around Rote. A little bit outside of that. I ended up, settling in Realport, around the time of the morning and opened this office and was kind of hoping of finding more foundlings with the Madani mark.
Oh, you're a foundling?
No, I'm a proper heir. I mean, I've got the Dimadani and everything. She gestures to the mark which is on the palm of her left hand.
But you were looking for foundlings in general,
was-
then?
Yeah. I was, I mean, people end up all over the world. Figured I could be a mentor or something.
You were planning to pull together a little ragtag team of Madanis?
Something like that.
How's that going?
Well, as you can see, I'm the only Madani in office.
Well, I don't know. I haven't scrutinized every single person I've seen in here.
Well, it's just me and Celia, I'm afraid. Speaking of that, Celia knocks on the door and enters. And Marina says, speak of the devil. Celia says, oh, were you talking about me? Only good things. Only good things. I just wanted to see if anybody need any refreshments. Brina said, if you could make me a coffee. And Celia says, no. You've had enough today.
It's a bit late for that, I think.
Ooh, he's cutting you off.
Brina kind of pouts.
Luca's putting his papers over his face, trying not to laugh.
Anything for anybody else? Tea, water?
Water would be lovely, thank you.
Audrey nods.
All right, then 3 waters. It's like, tell you, what's a secretary who doesn't make you coffee?
She's
Goes
a
back
rebel.
Back to reading.
How do
5
you-
cups a day is too much.
5.
Audrey just like bounces her brows and keeps reading. Notes.
How do you know if someone is a foundling? Is it
Well,
just knowledge of parentage?
pretty much, I guess. I mean, if they're not an excoriate or an heir, they're a foundling.
Right.
Metanoia isn't really in the habit of making excoriates. We're pretty small in terms of houses and kind of keep to ourselves.
Audrey's nodding as she's reading through, kind of half listening, half reading.
Luca makes a tiny face at that.
Keep reading through the information. Celia brings in water. Eventually, Brina says, all right. I don't think there'll be any more use burning the midnight oil, especially if you've got an appointment tomorrow with Captain Frostroot.
Mm-hmm.
Keep me posted, and I'll try and follow up on some of my own leads.
Right.
Sounds good to me.
Have a safe walk home.
Have a
We
good
shall.
night.
Try not to drink
Detective.
too much coffee before you go to bed.
Brina rolls her eyes. Yeah.
Don't salt the wound, Luca.
It's not good. It disrupts your sleep.
Yeah, we're leaving
Just
now. Yeah.
Carter rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And you head off.
I don't imagine we'll talk much, but then like probably take food, bring it back.
I mean, it's either you take food, bring it back, or eat at the hotel.
Room service.
Might as well grab food on the way. Like, we can get room service and have food on the way home.
Okay.
Willow will buy the Regal Port food, though. Do I have to wrestle him for this? I can pay for it, right?
Yeah, tell me how much you're spending.
I'll get enough for these guys, too, when they get back. So, just like
Okay.
snacky things, treats.
Okay.
I'm gonna do another perception check while I'm out, too, just to see if, I don't know, Warfred's following me. Ugh. And Fish Dog is back in my pocket. Never mind.
Nope.
Okay. And I'm bringing like a pile of street food back.
Okay. Spend like 6 silver on your massive pile of food.
It's a decent pile. No, there's a bit more because of Luca, Damon.
Yeah.
Alright, so 6 silver. Then I imagine them just kind of heading back. Hotel,
Mm-hmm.
chilling. Is it Damon's room? I'm assuming.
It can be.
I
Unless
think
you'd
Willow would
rather
check.
eat in your room.
I think Willow will check that the others aren't there, and then once they see that they're not there, they'll probably grab some of their things and go back to Damon's.
Okay.
I imagine them sitting on the floor
Mm-hmm.
and pulling their jacket out of their pocket like a clown handkerchief, and then starting to work on switching over their pockets, basically, while snacking.
Yeah.
Fish are giving them help.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not saying much, but they're just chilling for a bit.
Yeah. I don't think you and Damon have really been talking much outside of, like, small tidbits of conversation, like, what are you getting, etc.
Yeah. No, like, not at all, I don't imagine. Even kind of wordless, like, are we eating dinner in the same room kind of thing? Because there's the option to, like, split ways, but the door's probably just open, and Willow's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna insight check in there.
Okay.
Whatever, honestly.
You trying to read my mind, Jenkins?
Willow looks back at their work, embarrassed again that he noticed. And they shake their head.
All right.
And then they kind of shrug and then, like, make a so-so gesture. I'm no further along in understanding what's happening here than when we started, which is not ideal, but usually something clicks by now.
Want to talk through it out loud? Hear that helps sometimes.
Not really.
Damon shrugs. Just a suggestion.
I'm not saying it's a bad suggestion, I'm just... I feel like I've done enough talking for one day.
Fair enough.
How long until Willow gets their pockets working?
An hour.
I think probably another long spell of silence, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. You just eat in silence. It's weirdly less uncomfortable to be silent around Damon.
Yeah.
He just goes, like, he eats and then he goes and does his whatever work he's doing.
I think even so, Willow's like, oh, comfortable, quiet? No, there has to be something. Like, there's just that prolonged silence. Not in a bad way. Like, Willow's familiar with prolonged silence as a comfort thing, but, like, I think because it's Damon, there's, like, an added... I don't know if this is wrong yet. Like, I don't know what's up. And so, in saying that, I think Willow's going to dig around in there. Now there's Siren pocket, their Siren jacket.
Mm-hmm.
And with their, like, elbow halfway in there a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to see something interesting?
Sure. Damon turns around and leans back in his chair to look at you.
Does he sound as bored as his voice sounds? Does he look as bored as his voice sounds?
Hard to tell.
Well, it pauses. Do you want to pretend to have some fanfare about it? Or?
What did you find, Willow Jenkins?
Oh my god, I take it back. Willow's going to, because that's awkward as hell, going to now pull out the calendar globe. Ta-da!
Oh. Where'd you find that?
a look crosses Willow's face, and it's not like victory. It's, oh shit, I didn't think of this. How do you feel about pirates anyway?
You stole it.
A little.
Okay.
I mean,
A little.
technically. Okay, a lot. Willow's going to start like tucking it back into their pocket.
I mean, I don't. It's no skin off my back unless you get arrested.
Oh, okay then. And then Willow's going to bring it back out and like gesture if he wants to look at it.
Damon removes himself from his desk where he's been poring over like journal and maps and like paperwork that he is distinctly not allowed you to look at.
Yeah, whatever. If I stand up to give it to him, can I have a little accidental sneaky peeky at what he's looking at?
You can try, but you will have to be very particular about it because he is
It's a glance.
It looks like calculations. You just get a brief glance and then Damon snaps the book shut.
Willow looks away like they didn't mean to be reading that.
Damon comes over and looks at the globe and says, "Huh. Haven't seen one of these in a while."
Willow does little twinkly fingers as they're holding it. Like,
give me an insight check. Damon is looking at this with open interest and almost a wistfulness. How long you had this?
For the sake of an alibi, I'd rather not say.
I'm not a snitch.
Yeah, I can't seem to get information out of you if I tried, so a few nights. Actually, Willow starts pacing. Actually, it was shortly after our discussion.
Huh. Ellen. Here you go.
You can hold on to it for a bit. Just don't sell it. Or trade it.
Wouldn't dream of it. Mind if I use it?
By all means. It's just sitting in a cabinet anyway.
Bit of a waste.
That's what I thought.
Thanks. Damon takes it and goes back to his desk and starts quite deliberately plugging in dates and times and making notes. Like, not only is he familiar with this, he is using it like he knows how to use it.
What kind of check do I need to do to glean more on this while Willow is just kind of... I imagine Willow was about to, like, walk away and go back to their business, but once they see him sit down with such, like, purpose, they're like, okay, what's this about? What do I need to do? Roll.
What are you trying to figure out exactly? Like what he's looking at, or how he knows this. What information are you looking for exactly?
Is he using it the same way that we would have used it, or is he using it like, is it just how I would have used it but more advanced? Or is it something new?
Give me either an no, I think this is just a straight intelligence check. Okay. He's looking at future dates as opposed to past dates.
Knew it.
But he's also cross-referencing past dates.
Yeah, Willow openly tilts their head at him and what he's doing.
Damon keeps going for a while.
Do you mind if Willow pulls up a chair?
I think he notices again that you're still here, and he was like, "Oh, didn't think you'd be interested in sticking around."
Willow squints at him, like it's quite clear their whole face like lifts into a squint. Would you like me to leave?
Well, it's not really anything you have interest in, considering the whole... Let's just say I'm counting my potential chickens.
Willow shrugs and takes a seat. I like chickens.
Damon gives you a flat look. I'm making plans for the mission.
Willow shrugs and keeps looking.
Damon gives you kind of a squint and sort of sheets his book a little bit further away from you.
I'm just watching.
Okay, then. Takes Damon a little bit of time to, like, settle back into the groove, because he keeps glancing over at you, watching him.
I think Willow's going to take out their journal after a bit and, like, sort of write
Okay.
while watching, or sketch, or something like diagram-wise. They're just
Okay.
jotting thoughts or following what he's doing, if they can follow anything about what he's doing.
Yeah, I'll let that 23 intelligence ride. You can follow a bit of it. Even if it is a bit fast. Actually, I'm gonna do a quick check for Damon to see how high the DC is. Okay, yeah, you succeed. If I let that ride. Give me one more intelligence check.
Okay. Can Fish still give me advantage?
No.
Okay.
Okay, you just barely meet the DC. You are managing to keep up with what is essentially I would equate it to like astrophysics calculations.
Yep. For what purpose?
That you don't know.
Okay. but I do know
But
he's
you can
making
tell-
astrophysics calculations.
But you can tell that he is cross-referencing like positions of moons and stars with dates and certain geographical locations. He's like checking for upcoming eclipses, and that's not just like solar eclipses, but like lunar eclipses. And considering that Aberon has at least 12 moons, that's a lot of eclipses to calculate
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, Willow seems invested nevertheless, even if they don't quite know the context. They are just watching, jotting down thoughts.
Yeah.
And the Syrian jacket, by the way, they would have put that back on.
Nice. Yeah. Damon is doing a lot of calculations, and he is writing in a script that you don't understand.
Can I do a check to see if I recognize what it is, though?
Make a history check, but I don't think you do. This is a real impossible check. Yeah, no, you don't know what it is.
I needed to nat 20 it. Okay. Fishdog might take a look, but I don't think they'll glean anything.
No. You're not
Think-
going to be able to read my handwriting.
So messy.
Pretty sure you don't speak this language.
Okay. I imagine it settling into another rather chill silence until those guys show up. Until I hear those guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those guys. You know, a normal person would have just asked him what language he was writing in.
I'm being chill.
Okay, fine. That's a chill question, depending on how you ask it. Oh, I don't recognize that. What is it?
Shall I redact and go ask him then?
No, you made your choice.
Fine. Willow's being chill. Look, last time I asked him a question, I asked him if he was a dragon. We spent all day asking questions. I'm just letting him chill and do his work.
Yeah. No, it's cool.
Just relax.
It is what it is.
Speaking of those two, Damon perks up like well before you do, Willow, and says, "Oh, those two are back. Make a perception check."
Oh my gosh.
We have names. Dingle and Berry.
Stop it.
It takes you a full minute before you hear the footsteps of Luca and Audrey coming down the hallway.
Willow shoots him such an accusatory look. How did you know that?
I could hear him.
Willow's going to look very, like, obviously lean in their chair and look at his... Can I see his ears at all?
Yeah,
Are they
Are they-
human-shaped?
yeah. They look human. He is for all intents and purposes, as far as you can perceive, a human being.
Is he half elf? I can't remember.
No, he's
No,
not.
he's
He's
human.
fully
Half elves have
human.
different ears.
Yeah, no. I thought
Yeah.
Malachi said he was like a half elf. I couldn't remember.
Nah. Just a dude in a coat. Noble. Willow's gonna squint at him again. And then look at his necklace. And back at him like... That's strange. Is it strange?
Yes.
Do a check. I'm asking
I
this.
don't know.
Can
I don't know.
It is unusual. You think you consider yourself having pretty keen hearing, but this
Yeah.
dude apparently...
Can I do an Arcana check?
I don't think so.
Okay.
What are you trying to determine the actual...
Why could he hear so good?
Yeah. Mm.
Oh, don't you make that noise.
What?
Damon gives you a look like, what? You think you're the only one with ears around here?
Willow rolls their eye. They take a deep breath, like, okay, I'm not going to pester him. I just said I'm just going to be chill. And they'll say, I better go see what happened. Shall I leave you to it?
He nods. Good night, then.
So every time you, Willow goes towards the door, looks back. Every time you ask who's at the door, you already know. Yes?
Damon shrugs. If I'm familiar enough with them.
Willow will pack up the food that they brought here. Supposing you don't want to join us?
I'm sure you've got plenty to discuss.
At the door, they will ask, pardon me, one more. Will you be here tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay. Good night.
He gives you a wave and you close the door on him. Leave. Meet Anne and Luca in the hallway. Or Audrey, depending who Anne is right now.
Anne's back in N form.
Yeah, Willow knows it's you guys, so they're gonna be Fen. No, they'll be Cognate.
Do we see them coming out of Damon's room?
Yeah, I meet you in the
Yeah.
hallway.
Oh.
Oh.
What
You
were
two
you
back
doing?
on speaking
Hi.
terms?
Something like that.
Everything alright?
I think so.
Oh.
I can't tell.
Good to hear it. Anne's gonna go open up their room and filter on in.
Willow realizes after a moment that he can probably hear me with his super weird ears. Whatever, they're embarrassed again. They'll go into the room.
And glances back at you, lingering there, staring at Damon's door with an odd
I think they-
posture, then goes back to their work.
It's like crunch, not even looking at Damon's door, just like crunched over in front of the door, like, I said that out loud. So, whatever, they'll just run past into the room with you.
So, we signed the contract.
Mask off. Oh, good. Oh, so I can't speak to you two anymore.
Well,
you can speak to us. We just can't talk about details of the case. We're magically inclined not to.
To what end?
That's part of the NDA. If we break it, then there'll be a note on our file, so to speak.
And
Can I do an
we
Arcana
can
check?
Get punished by criminal law.
Well, it's according to the wording on the contract itself. It's more.
We have a
along-
copy, right?
Yes, it's more
Yeah.
along the lines.
I'll just
of
give it to Willow.
It'll be broken.
I'm listening to N, and I'm not looking at what Luca's showing me, in case I'm not allowed to look at it.
Yeah.
Willow's like,
There's nothing
sort of holds her
incriminating
hand.
in the contract. Like,
Is Luca saying that?
no. Sarah's saying that, but there's nothing like.
It
Willow
is a
doesn't
little
know.
bit in poor taste.
Yeah,
too.
you shouldn't be showing the whole contract.
Yeah, Willow's like
Oh.
gonna hold her hand up and sort of gesture like, depending on the strictness of the contract, I'd prefer not to risk it.
We should be careful. Either way, it wasn't. The stipulation wasn't you go directly to jail the moment you paddle. But it does leave us most likely to lose access to everything we just gained. That's the biggest concern. So we won't be doing that. However, it's not a breach of contract to say that we are in line to speak with Meraldine as soon as we hear back. So that's a go.
Okay. Willow nods. When?
Well, as soon as we hear back from Meraldine, she's the one arranging their time. We've sent a letter her way, so.
She's a very business-savvy woman. I'm sure that'll be as soon as she can.
That's what I'm thinking.
When did you send that note, actually?
Before
On
we
the way back
saw
from salvage.
Today,
Yeah.
this afternoon.
before we saw
Before
Bruno.
you... Okay. What time is it?
We paid for like
Express.
speedy delivery.
Express.
Yeah. Have
Courier
you
delivery.
checked your correspondence yet?
Well, N might act, honestly. We're swinging back on the way back. Yeah. I think that would be in line for N to do that, and they're using Kai's P.O. box, so.
Yeah.
Oh, so you might have-
Oh, so retcon?
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh, retcon.
retcon is you have the appointment.
Yeah. And might hold
Oh.
up the note and, like, wiggle it around. And then, in that case, the retcon that. It's a go. And N holds up the letter. Not open, but.
Willow, gives you both a look of like, it's quick, and then I think we'll give Anne a high five.
And we'll
Awkwardly.
accept that.
And Luca. Luca can have a high five.
Yeah, I'll give it a little high five. Little high five.
Good.
But-
Willow
Yes,
says
Luca?
good, and then there's like a little strained
Wait.
after twitch in their smile.
I was actually gonna say, when did you tell Luca? Yeah, would Anne have told Luca like the information in that letter, or waited until we go back to the room to discuss it?
I imagine because N is stating we have the appointment, and you already looked at the note.
Okay.
Yeah, and has
So
no
you guys
reason to
probably
keep
got
it
it on the
from
way
you.
back.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Do you have any plans for tomorrow? Like a certain dragon slayer, perhaps?
Huh. Again, N has kind of cut to the chase of what Willow was going to skirt around for a while, but maybe. I didn't get to ask clearly, but
How's Willow in general? I can't beat a 21,
I think-
so.
I think on that you do notice Willow has like some little bit of sand on them still.
And mood-wise, they are a little awkward. They're just awkward. They don't know what to say about that, but they're not in a bad mood. They're just kind of awkward.
Well,
And about Meraldine, there's a bit of a strained smile.
Yeah, what's the strange smile?
you know what it is,
Oh.
Luca.
Everything
I?
you know about this. Yes.
Yeah, it's the
Oh,
same
okay.
thing.
I thought it maybe was like, oh, I wish I were going to see the captain.
No.
No.
It's
No.
like oh god, we're starting into this shit again. Like, not in a bad way, just this avenue is opening up, the avenue that I am tense about, but it is happening, and that is good. So you all get a weird high five.
Right. Cool.
What were you
Okay.
saying? What was I
And?
saying?
Well, as long as you are keeping up with someone.
Willow nods. I know you wouldn't want me to go exploring Regalport without some security. I just didn't ask him yet. Willow gives a
Nice.
little pinched nose thing of like, if he can't hear me right now.
He kind of sticks out, though. I don't know how
That's fine.
incognito you can be with him around.
It's not necessarily incognito that I'm aiming for. It's good to be seen
Oh.
around with someone at least.
Yeah, and you have connections, sometimes you're less likely to, and makes like a cutthroat gesture with Meraldine's letter. Not surefire
Willow
thing,
nods.
but it helps. Especially when it's an something or other.
I have been sure to be seen in public, well, by Wilfred, but also with Wilfred and also with Damon. So if I
Here's
suddenly go
accountant.
missing, receipts
It helps to have a paper
And-
trails.
or people trail, whatever. In any case, it sounds like you guys have a day lined up for you. So
Yeah, guess we better get some rest.
It's midnight oil.
Brina told us not to burn it.
do you guys mind if I use the shower first?
Go for it.
Thank you. Will. And display the snacks that they brought you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Willow brought
Gosh.
dinner again.
I did.
There's
What?
honestly so much that there will probably be leftovers in the morning.
Disagree. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Is that a challenge?
No, even for Luca. I'm telling you, Willow spent that much money on it.
Oh,
Oops.
righto.
Well, do we want to skip to meeting Elsa? Meeting up with Elsa?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's move forward.
I wave you guys off.
Bye, Willow.
You don't want to come and
Seriously.
pick her up with us? Oh, I guess
No.
you don't want to be
No.
seen.
Don't want to be involved in this.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Do you want me
Ah.
to give her a message?
Willow just says say
Then-
hi to Elsa.
Yeah. Nice.
We get this cleared up and we won't have to be so secretive anymore.
Yeah.
More motivation to solve the case, eh? Pats Luca's arm and starts heading off.
I'm not good with secrets, Lucas says as he starts walking out with you.
Yeah, that's gonna be a problem. You better start learning.
Quick question. Did the note say
Yeah.
where you guys were meeting Myraldine?
You are meeting her in the Silver Dancer at 11 a.m. sharp.
Oh my lord. She wrote sharp in the note.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Well,
Miss Myraldine. No, okay, but
I'm
also
a bath bit.
I imagine when you guys leave the room, Willow like flops back on their bed and has that like backlit by the window next to them kind of wistful look of like would be cool to see the boat though. Yeah, while you guys go. Yeah.
Mm.
But and then just
Should
sigh
covertly
and
follow
settle.
us.
No. Sigh and settle the urge to follow you, which isn't really high, honestly. They will settle, chill, and plan the day ahead in their mind while horizontal.
Okay.
Bye.
So, you head down to the Crown Bay Harbor to meet Seek Elsa early in the morning. She has arrived a couple hours ahead of time.
Yeah.
So you
We'll take
guys
her out to
can
breakfast.
chat and yeah.
yeah.
She
Take
gives
her
you
somewhere
both a
fancy.
hug when you meet her.
Lucas says Willow says
Us.
hi.
Yes.
Yeah. You have a nice little breakfast out by the docks. There's seagulls and the noise of town and stuff. It's all very cheerful. You guys ask how you're doing.
Yeah.
I'll tell her we're working for Madani.
Yeah, and we'll explain that well, we're under an NDA now and officially working as detectives' assistants.
Yeah.
She's very impressed by that and says that she hopes that her coming along will be helpful.
Yeah.
It will.
Yeah. And as a question they want to ask regarding that kind of stuff, but I think they're gonna wait until like they're en route
Okay.
to the Silver Dancer.
Yeah, I think we can skip ahead to that.
And at that point, N is no longer N, but has turned into Kai at that point.
I see we're down to business, as it were.
I am previously acquainted with Captain Frostroot.
Kai introduced us.
I would hesitate to
else?
say this face makes her more comfortable, but it is familiar.
Sometimes familiar is all someone needs.
Kai nods.
That's the way then.
Indeed. Seeker, one question regarding resurrection.
Yes?
Would extensive damage done to a body make resurrection more difficult?
Yes, it can. Typically, the spell will heal only enough damage to allow a person to remain alive if they have died a violent death. But obviously, the more complicated and the more missing, the more risky the spell is.
Kai nods.
It's not impossible for people to live with certain body parts missing. Obviously.
Yes.
Kai's just silently thinking about that.
Would you like to
Kirina?
share, Kai?
I believe it may be a breach of our NDA for me to discuss this presently.
Ah.
So, you head to the Silver Dancer, a sleek ship of ash-white wood flying the blue and green flag of the sea dragons from her masts. Formerly a merchantman ship designed to trade along the coast of the continent, she has since been retrofitted with arcane cannons and a pair of ballistae. The figurehead is that of a gleeful dancer, arms outstretched to hug the prow, long hair and shawls carved as if they had been fluttering with the motion of the dance. The ship is moored to the docks, but still there is crew ready and able among her rigging and tending to the daily upkeep. Her prow points outwards towards the entrance of the Crown Bay, a watchful defender of the peace that allows Regalport to flourish. Arriving, you are greeted by sailors, who have heard of your coming. The bosun, a powerfully muscled half-orc woman with her hair tucked under a bandana, escorts you to the captain's quarters at the stern. She knocks sharply on the door 3 times. "Enter," calls the voice of Meraldine Frostroot. The bosun opens the door and steps inside, ushering you to follow. Captain Frostroot is seated at her desk, looking immaculate in her blue frock coat, cravat, and debonair hat. Her quarters are clean, well-appointed, and made airy by the presence of large bay windows behind her. Her single blue eye rakes over you with cool calculation. "Your appointment, Captain," says the bosun. "Thank you, dear. You may return to your duties." The bosun tugs her forelock and leaves, closing the door behind you. Captain Frostroot elegantly rises from her chair to receive you. "Might as well settle the introductions here and now. I am Captain Meraldine Frostroot of the Silver Dancer, and you are here to offer me the service of communing with my currently deceased partner, Tarek Elham."
Kai is kind of just standing at bay. He almost is like separated himself from Elsa and Luca at this point. He's kind of off to the side a bit, leaned against the wall and watching you two and Meraldine. He's kind of just a shadow in this exchange. So it's on you guys.
Okay. Captain, may I introduce Seeker Elsa, my mentor, and the one who will be conducting the what's the word I would use for this?
The ritual.
Ritual. Thank you.
"Yes, it is an honor to make your acquaintance, Captain Frostroot. I am Seeker Elsa of Salvage. I am a follower of the Blood of Vol and quite familiar with the art of communing with the deceased." Meraldine says, "Excellent. Well, now that we've all done our introductions, let us sit down and talk of business. When are you next available to proceed with the ritual?"
If I may, do you mind if we record this conversation for our own reference?
"Record how?"
Scriber.
"Very well."
That's much appreciated.
I'm insight checking that.
You know what? I will too. Since
"Oh,
That went well.
I think Meraldine sees Kai watching her.
Never mind.
Yeah. At that not one, I think it's like pretty obvious that Kai is watching. He's standing at a bit of a distance and obviously separating himself from the interaction a bit, but he's watching.
She'll allow it,
Yep. Cool.
but she can also tell you to stop at any time.
Yeah. Of course.
So, Luca, you set up the magically enchanted fountain pen to write on a page. You will need to turn the pages as it fills it up.
Yep. Maybe Kai can keep an eye on that since he's... I'm joking, I'll do it.
Turn around, Kai has a non-expression. I'm kidding, I'll do it. No.
Maybe you can help. No. Dinner with the mafia guy is currently staring daggers at Captain Frostrum.
With the other mafia guy.
Yeah.
Mafia, but full of moths.
Yeah.
So, as you write this down, Meraldine says, "When are you available for conducting the ritual?" And Sikasa says, "I am available as soon as you need. I only need some notice. I did bring along supplies in the event of us being able to perform it today." And Meraldine says, "Well, that's quite proactive of you. Unfortunately, I do have to arrange the appointment with the hospital staff. But that should be possible as soon as, let's say, tomorrow morning." And Sikasa says, "Yes, that would be quite all right." "Good. Excellent. I will also obviously be in attendance as the executor of his estate currently." Sikasa says, "That sounds all right with me." "What questions do you have planned to ask him?"
She stumbled on his name. Why?
It's because she isn't sure to what level of familiarity she should refer to him in front of you. You are well aware that he is her partner,
Mm-hmm.
but she is also treating this very much like business.
Okay.
So there is some degree of awkwardness of, like, her trying not to be either too cold or too informal.
Not want to present herself as too familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Hope I didn't waste that nat 20.
No such thing. Congratulations.
So the questions, Luca,
So-
you're spearheading this as the one who Rena
Yep.
talked to about this.
Yes. So I will take out my notepad and offer it to her with the 5 main questions that I have written down. Kind of neaten them up so she can see.
Okay.
Things
Those
like-
questions are...
Question would be to describe your final moments. Who do you think would have been the one to want to have you killed? Why do you think someone would want to kill you if anyone did? Was there anything that anyone wanted from you that might give them cause to kill you? And why did you decide to get a portrait done at the Gilded Brush?
She looks over the questions and says, "This last one about the portrait, why ask that?"
I'm not sure if I'm able to disclose, given you've been somewhat distant from the investigation as far as I'm aware.
"I simply haven't had time to submit my testimony. I've been quite busy, as you might imagine. But as the
Mm.
partner of the victim in question, I feel I have a right to know.
We have reason to believe someone at the Gilded Brush may have been involved with circumstances at the auction hall. We don't know how involved, but involvement nonetheless.
Meraldine sort of purses her lips and
Do you?
scrutinizes you.
Do you have an answer to that question?
I was the one who suggested he get a portrait done at that place. They do good work.
Was there some special occasion?
His opera had just made it to the big stage.
Of course. Is that a common thing? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the ways of the ridiculously fabulous.
No, it is not common, especially for someone non-elven to make it as such a prestigious showing. Under House
So
of Money themselves. Unprecedented, even.
Right.
But so far, the other questions seem quite amenable.
Was there anything in particular you wish to ask him?
Not as of yet. This session should first be used to answer the most pressing questions regarding his demise.
Of course.
If you do not mind, dear Miss Seeker Elsa, I might request your assistance in future. Seeker Elsa says, "Oh, yes, I would be happy to make myself available to you." Meraldine says, "Excellent. But that can come later."
Hmm. Might I ask why you wish to be present?
Well, I am responsible for enacting his will, and I am also his partner.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, I've already seen him at his worst, and I doubt a little bit of graveside whispering is going to dissuade me now.
Hmm.
What's that for?
Is she comfortable with this idea, or is she forcing herself because she thinks it's the thing that should be done?
She's not going to take no for an answer in this case, is what you can glean. It doesn't even matter if she finds it distasteful. She's going to do it.
Why though? Because
She doesn't trust you, first of all.
That's what I thought.
Me specifically, or the situation?
I mean, in general, I think.
Okay.
She isn't going to trust anybody with such an important thing without her supervision.
Right. What is Tarek like
Excuse me?
as a person? What's he like?
Well, he was remarkably gifted with words. He had a quite sharp sense of humor, and he was very driven.
Oh.
How does she feel about that? How does she feel about him?
Oh, it's complicated.
Oh,
Damn.
She is
Okay.
admittedly holding things back because of the situation. She's obviously not telling you everything because that would be revealing some of herself.
Mhm.
You said you've seen Tarek at his worst. Would you call that night him at his worst?
Yes, I would rather say that being suspended from a steel statue by the eyeballs is his worst.
You know that's not what I mean. Was he always that
Well, what-
cutting? Inflammatory?
Well, if he was in a bad mood that night, I guess that's just foreshadowing, as they say.
Was he in a bad mood that night?
He was under the weather. Yes. I
Was
certainly
that
wouldn't
common
call him.
for him? I know some people have weak constitutions, so they may fall under the weather quite frequently. Was that something you expected of him, or is that out of the ordinary?
Well, he'd been having headaches of late. I believe it was stress. But
Had
I
he
am
seen
unsure.
someone about that? Obviously, if he had seen a doctor, we could contact them to see if there might be some reasons that might have led to this happening.
I believe he had previously suffered migraines, so I imagine that there was nothing new other than a little bit of prescription medication. Something to take the edge off the pain.
Hmm. God damn it. Prescription medication.
I'll look into it too.
we're all thinking the same thing. Don't worry about it.
Was this doctor over the table or under the table? Were they legit or not legit?
Does a 15 get us anything on that front?
It's not something that Merildine knows about personally. She was not
Okay.
involved in that.
Okay,
She
interesting.
talks about it like it was his business, basically.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Is there a reason that you are asking these questions?
Many, I imagine. Some less interesting to you than others. Sometimes it helps to know the person that we'll be communing with. Sometimes they tend to speak in a somewhat roundabout way. So understanding the kind of person they were might give us some insight to what they might say or ways of interpreting what they might say. So
Well,
knowing that Tarek was a poet means he might speak in a somewhat pretty manner, for lack of a better word.
yes, that would just be like him. Well, I suppose we will address that when it comes to it.
Mm-hmm. How goes the preparations for his resurrection? If you don't mind my asking, of course.
How did you find out about that?
How did I find out about that?
Madani, Brina told N and N told you.
I
Different
know
guy.
someone who had contact with the Madani investigator.
And so you decided to loiter outside of the hospital and offer your services to me. Interesting.
Remember your
I'm
story,
giving her a
Luca.
smile. Well, we sought you out, but loitering is a word for it as well.
Well then,
Is there a problem with my offering?
no, not at all. I am simply curious as to the character of anyone that I do business with.
Well, if you'd like to interview us, you're more than welcome.
I think I shall.
How's she vibing about us, I guess?
Scrutinizing. I think we're just going to quickly montage through questions because she is largely going to be asking Seeker Elsa questions, and I don't want to have to
Yeah.
quick
Of
fire
course.
back and forth interrogate myself.
Yeah.
So, everybody just give me a persuasion check. Group persuasion check. Seeker
Okay.
Elsa will also roll persuasion.
Oh, come on, my lovely Seeker. Oh, honey bun. Hey!
Hey,
Okay.
group persuasion though.
Okay, so 46 divided by 3 is 30. Is 12,
Bless you.
13, 14, 14 to 15, I think.
Okay.
Do you
Seeker
wanna
Elsa is a
activate it?
little bit intimidated, but the two of you support her and help her. Meraldine does like cutting questions of like, how long have you been doing this? How many times have you done this? Have you experienced any like errors? What are the possible side effects? Like all that. Why are you interested in this case in particular? Why are you offering your services pro bono? She does like the whole gamut of like sussing out your intentions, basically. And you do persuade her eventually that it's like, this is because you are genuinely good people who are interested in seeing justice served accordingly, and you have the capability to help, so you will help.
Yeah.
She seems a little bit sort of about that, especially because you're offering it for free. But that's...
If she's willing to pay, we will take it, but, you know, her money is better spent elsewhere given she has plans.
Indeed. And I want you to make a perception check real quick.
Okay.
Kai.
Let's go. Oh.
Okay, so as you are discussing this, you can see, you can observe on her table are somewhat tucked away, but clearly still in use, various banking statements, stuff like that. On a 19, I'm going to say that you can see that there is a contract for a loan.
And I pick up anything about that? Like who is she contracting?
Meraldine is loaning money herself from the banks.
She's taking out loans to pay for the resurrection, essentially, is what I could probably gather from that. All right, Kai's eye kind of drifts there and then returns back to the scene.
Specifically for, like, you can give me an intelligence check as well.
Okay.
Banking check. Okay.
I know something.
Specifically, she is taking out a loan so that she has enough liquid assets to pay for this. She has likely put up certain non-liquid assets up as collateral or insurance in some ways. She clearly lives quite an affluent lifestyle, but dropping this much money on an expensive medical procedure is obviously going to take a lot of money.
Yeah.
And
All at
non-liquid
once.
assets take time to translate.
Exactly. So
Yeah, like a play,
Quickly.
maybe.
Yes.
Can you guys
Mid?
quickly define liquid and non-liquid assets?
So liquid assets is spendable cash.
And non-liquid
Things that-
assets are things that could translate into money but are not currently
Actually, money.
spendable.
Money.
Not currently money,
So-
like a ship or a plane.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Intellectual property, patents,
Uh,
things like that.
Yeah, so.
Store stock, for example.
Guys just observing that from a distance, but not openly. Just, you know,
Yep.
eyes wander.
So that's a thing that Kai knows.
Yep.
That Kai can deduce about Captain Frostroot's current financial situation.
I love D&D.
Right?
Are we coming up
Thank
to
you,
the end of
intrigue.
the
Right?
conversation?
I genuinely find it interesting, so
It's
I'm just
very-
happy to be here.
Very
It's
interesting.
very interesting. Much intrigue.
What was that quiet rom voice that just happened?
Oh, I was just wondering where we are in the situation, the conversation, because there is something I think Kai's gonna tag on to the end of it after the scribe is probably shut down, and we're like tying up the conversation. So I'm just saying that.
Yeah. I think, yes, you managed to satisfy Meraldine's curiosity. She says that she will arrange for the appointment to be tomorrow morning as best she can. Roughly about the same time as now.
Mhm.
Since it seems to be an adequate time of day. And with any luck, we'll have this squared away before lunchtime.
Luca nods.
Wonder if she's attending the memorial. Looks at Luca because Kai's not gonna say that
That's tomorrow, right? Or today?
tomorrow night.
Tomorrow. Ask.
Oh, tomorrow. Will you be attending the memorial for the auction house victims in the evening? I just wouldn't want the two things to interfere with one another.
No, I don't believe I shall. I'm afraid I'm a little bit too busy for that sort of thing.
Of course. As said, I don't really understand the lavish and busy lifestyle of a captain.
I've recently picked up quite a bit more work.
Wow, my smile got so tense.
If that is all, then I thank you for your time. You may take your leave.
I'll take down the scriber.
Yeah, Kai's gonna sort of wait for Elsa and Luca to be kind of making.
Oh, see, that's a problem. Luca wants to stay back and take a convo.
Oh,
You can stagger it.
Kai's gonna stay here. And Kai's not leaving until you leave. So
But I'm not leaving until you leave, is the
Oh, God,
problem.
you guys-
Let's have some quick mental conversation.
yeah. So Kai's gonna look
Kai
at.
has awakened mind and
Yeah.
can tell Luca what he plans, so...
Yeah, Kai's looking at Luca expectantly, and then I want to ask Meraldine something. Essentially,
Oh, shit, me too.
I like darts to Meraldine and back to Luca. Like, go ahead then.
You can't be here. You're not a good presence.
Kai just stands there and doesn't move. Slides
Luca
slightly to
Elsa
the left
has-
into a shadow.
You know what? I will step outside and then return when Kai exits.
I don't know if that's allowed, because
I'm
Like-
gonna leave something in here.
what are you leaving?
I don't know, my pen or something on the desk, on the chair.
Forgets a pen on purpose to have
Yeah.
an excuse to come back inside.
There we go.
Fine. This didn't
Luca
really
leaves
need
with
all of this
Seeker
song
Elsa.
and dance, but sure. Well,
carry
let's
on.
say Elsa and Luca like exit the room. Kai's gonna linger and like you're allowed to hear it. It's not necessarily that sensitive, but it's just
Yeah.
more of a.
Yeah.
Kai's gonna linger for a moment in the doorway and then peer back at Meraldine. Who do you think did it?
Honestly, I don't know and I don't care, but they will get what is coming to them.
just the basics
Seems
on that.
Yeah.
She
means
seems
it.
angry and strained.
Mm-hmm.
Kai nods and starts to remove himself.
Oh my god, I forgot my.
Yeah, Kai there's a
Luca
slightest
breasts
roll.
boobly into the room. It's like, oh my god, I forgot my pen. So sorry.
Yeah.
Kai takes his leave.
Yeah, Kai's probably gonna lean outside the door though and listen. Casually. Like, my friend's still in there, I'm waiting for him to come out if anyone asks. So
Yeah. Sure.
Captain,
Yes.
may I speak candidly with you for a moment?
Please do.
Well, it's very clear. You're a woman who has to present herself in a particular way. I know that when I met the High Prince, I found myself acting very proper and as if I were once again a captain in the military. The kind of person who won't allow themselves to be seen as anything less than someone a crew or a cavalry unit could rely on. I imagine you have that sort of thing in your everyday and even might extend into your private life, given you live here in the space of the military, as it were. So I don't want to do you the disrespect of treating you any less than your station. But I also don't want to do you the disrespect of pretending the situation you're in is anything less than it is. How does she respond to that?
I think she quirked an eyebrow in interest when you mentioned meeting the High Prince, and now she's settled into sort of a parse-lipped smile almost. Well then, you're smarter than you seem at a glance.
That's a valuable asset. I think you would understand that.
Of course.
You're in a very precarious situation at the moment.
Well observed.
Yes. The way it stands, your future and your partner's future come down to what is essentially the roll of a dice. And I think you need to give some consideration to yourself if that dice roll fails.
I'm well aware of that.
Are you?
You don't think I got here by being a naive sort of gambler, did you?
My issue isn't the gamble. My issue is, what will you do if your resurrection failed? And the last memory you have of Tarek is him ghoulish and broken and speaking as if he is not himself. As someone who has experienced great loss in my own life, I can't tell you what it means to have the only thing I can recall be something violent.
Well, if we're talking about tarnishing my last memory of Tarek, I'm afraid that ship has long since sailed. The last time I saw him, he was staged as a bloody puppet for the horror of all of Realport's finest to see.
And do you want that twice in your memory?
I would rather hear his own voice come from his dead mouth than to have words put in it by those trying to eulogize for him.
How much do you know of the blood of Vol?
Not much, I will admit, and I don't really care to.
That's clear, isn't it?
I have other priorities, as you might understand.
Of course. There is a sort of respect that we tend to give the dead that is less present in other faiths or those without faith. Obviously, I can't speak for certain people present at the auction that night, but you've seen myself and my mentor. Do you really think that we're the kind of people who would put words in his mouth when we are trying to find the truth of those words?
You could be Saint Tiraminon herself, and I would still not trust you alone in a room where I can't see what you're doing. Are we clear?
Hmm. You're very good at being a captain. I hope you'll give yourself some consideration for a time when you aren't.
I'll take that under advisement.
I bow my head.
Until tomorrow, then.
Have a good evening.
She looks out at the noon sky.
What is her vibe at the end of that?
Don't fucking patronize me. I know what I'm doing.
I'm not patronizing you. That's why I said I was talking to you directly, sweetie.
Sweetie? I'm not patronizing you, sweetie!
Well, if she's gonna patronize me, come on.
Oh god, there are so many. I'm not here. I don't know.
Well, luckily Luca's not saying this and Luca's just leaving.
Yeah,
Yes.
luckily that was Sarah voice, not Luca voice.
Mhm.
I'm gonna pause at the door and then look back and think, and I can assume you've given consideration to what Tarek would want.
I am doing this for his sake, after all.
Are you?
She gives you a look. Are you really going to challenge me on this?
I'm not attempting to challenge you. I'm just hoping that you will do what is best for everyone. Even if that is a difficult thing to do.
Nothing in life that is worth doing is ever easy, is it? Goodbye, Mr. Luca Carnson.
Have a good evening, Captain.
And you are off.
Yep, guy pushes off the place beside the door where he was waiting and keeps walking.
Seeker Elsa is waiting for you by the docks.
Kai comes down to meet her.
She's quite a formidable woman, isn't she?
Headstrong. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Well,
But you made a good impression, as I knew you would.
thank you. I feel I was rather ineloquent.
But very straightforward, which is ideal.
Yes. Well, it's good to know what questions I have to ask tomorrow, and, seems like everything else shall be sorted.
Would you like to leave the supplies here? Or if you like, you could spend the night in Wriggleport?
Hmm.
No, you should go back to...
Yes, I think I rather should. But I will be here tomorrow, and yes, I think I'll leave the supplies with you, if that's all right, Luca.
Of course.
Kai is staring back towards the silver dancer, just in silence.
I think Seeker Elsa tries to catch your attention, Kai.
Yeah, Kai
Are you
notices
alright?
her moving. I'm fine.
She tilts her head. We'll do a quick insight check.
You know what?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Never mind, I'm frustrated.
Jesus.
Kai is fine. Kai is just
That's fine.
calm and considerate.
He's just like that.
Yep.
Well, all right then. Shall we have lunch before I head off?
Oh, yes, please.
All right then.